Now 3:01, so if you want to get started.
All right, thank you for joining Flagler Supports.biz for our very first COVID-19 business support webinar. We request all questions be held to the end of the webinar. And if you have any questions here in the panel, because you guys are panelists, just wave at the camera or just verbally say something. And Kat Friel is our moderator for today. And Kat, take it away.
Flagler Supports.biz is brought to you by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners. Flagler Supports.biz is a multi-touch point resource designed to provide comprehensive information to our local businesses through a streamlined delivery system by organizing the information into industry and situationally specific format. You can check out Flagler Supports.biz on the website,
which is right here,
or by visiting our Facebook page. Today's topic is the Paycheck Protection Program. We are joined by Jonathan Lord, Flagler County Emergency Management Director, who will give us a brief COVID-19 update. Joshua Gavit, Flagler County lobbyist. He will provide a quick update on the CARES Act legislation. Scott Fox, owner of Tortugas, and our subject matter expert, attorney Scott Spradley. Jonathan, could you please start us off?
Oh, Jonathan, you're muted.
You have to unmute yourself.
Here, I'll
my other keyboard button wasn't working. Sorry. Got a wireless keyboard that's not behaving. So thank you, Kat, and good afternoon, everybody. So as we sit this Friday afternoon, we currently have 52 cases of positive cases of COVID-19 here in Flagler County. 49 of those 52 are residents. The other 3 are not residents. We have had 2 deaths attributed to Flagler County from COVID-19, and we've had a total of 7 hospitalizations. That doesn't mean we actually have 7 people in the hospital now. That's also a cumulative figure. When we look at our growth rate and the spread of COVID-19 in our community, we are lucky that we are well below the state average, but that also other communities are below us, but majority are well above us for the rate of growth in our community. I think I attribute a lot of that to the fact that our residents and businesses are all doing the right thing and following social distancing guidelines. And I think that makes me very proud of our community that we are able to help kind of hold the line on the growth. As many people are aware, this past week, we started doing testing on our own. So the Flagler County government, along with the state health department's Flagler County office and Advent Health and volunteers from Flagler Volunteer Services, we collectively teamed up to kick off a testing site run at Daytona State Community College. They were very gracious to allow us to use their campus and even have offered up some support from their nursing students and some other personnel. So they're also a key partner in that. So we've been able to do just shy of 100 tests since we began doing them on Tuesday, and that has been going very, very well. That is in addition to testing available through people's regular healthcare providers, health drive-up testing site at the Speedway in Daytona that is not far away at all from our community, as well as a lot of our urgent care centers at times have tests available, and folks can just call them before going to see if they have test kits still in stock. As well as our health department in their Bunnell Clinic also has tests available. So we're very excited that the availability of testing in Flagler County has grown significantly, especially over the last week or so. So that gives our residents and workers much better access to make sure they know that they are healthy if they're having those COVID-19 symptoms. So that is very good news for us. We also did our first attempt at a food pantry light kind of process, which involved the private sector as well as the public sector. We did that at Hidden Trails out in Daytona North area, as well as at the Flagler Palm Coast High School. And that went off well too. We're actually looking at trying to find ways to make that even more effective and efficient, and working with some of our nonprofit private sector partners. And that's actually a meeting, when I'm done my briefing, I'll be running off to find some more efficient and effective ways to continue to improve upon that service. And last but not least, the biggest thing that we keep hearing from everybody is they want the beaches open, they want the parks open, and wish we could do all that. We would love to be able to do all of that, since we did have to close them down in order to protect our community. We are watching that on a day-to-day basis. For those who aren't aware, yesterday afternoon, we decided to open up, I believe it's 9 of our parks that have trails in them, for trail use, to allow people another way to recreate while they're, as long as they maintain social distancing. So that we're calling that an experiment to see how that goes, to see how the public reacts and is able to socially distance and utilize those facilities. After we see what I assume will be great compliance and social distancing and positive use of those assets, we will continue to work with our municipal partners and work towards hopefully some form of beach opening in the future as well. But this experiment gives us a good chance to see that we'll be able to manage community compliance and be able to start opening up more to our community as we head towards, being with the rest of the country and starting the phased reopening of America and what it means in our community specifically. So thank you, Kat.
You're muted, Kat.
Kat, you're muted. Unmute yourself. There we go.
Okay, all right. We are joined next by Joshua Gaviton. Joshua is the founder of Gaviton Group. He's called in. He started that group after 15 years working in Congress in the private sector in the nation's capital. He's actually joining us from up there. He works extensively with multiple House and Senate committees, sharing his in-depth knowledge of transportation policy. In addition, Mr. Gaviton lobbies the executive branch on extensive critical issues. Welcome, Joshua. What do you have for us today?
Thank you, Kat. Definitely appreciate your time for allowing me to participate. And I apologize because I can only call in, so I can't see anything. So bear with me here, okay? As we know, Congress passed the CARES Act, i.e. stimulus bill, on March 30th. That bill cost about $2.2 trillion. Within that bill, Congress included provisions for unemployment insurance, for direct payment allocations, which a majority of us will be receiving in the mail, if not now, the next week or so. It includes multiple provisions for small businesses that actually are severely affected by COVID-19. The bill also includes a number of provisions for local communities. About $1.25 billion will be headed to states and local communities for programs such as infrastructure improvement, healthcare improvement, anything that the municipality has seen that is affected by COVID. It's a very, very big bill, and to be honest with you, I tell you, every other day, we hear of new provisions that are being rolled out. But the main thing is that the intent is to take care of the people affected by COVID-19, is to take care of the people who are working to prevent this from happening in the long term as well. I can go on and on as far as the different types of programs that are enthralled within the bill, but I know, Kat, you're holding for questions at the end. So what I would like to do is, if I could, of course, stay on and answer any questions that can be more specific, if that's okay with you.
That would be fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great.
Okay. And now to the main event. I'd like to welcome Scott Fox, a local business owner who prides himself on resilience. Since opening Tortuga's Florida Kitchen and Bar 4 years ago, his business has experienced 4 FEMA disasters in Hurricanes Matthew, Irma, Dorian, road closures due to storms, and now the coronavirus. He has 22 years of experience operating restaurants in multi-locations to include Disney Springs. He joins us as kind of he's your guy. He's your tribe. He's been through this and understands the nuances and the specific issues that restaurateurs and hospitality are dealing with. And now to talk to you about the Payment Protection Program, our subject matter expert, attorney Scott Spradley. Scott is a 12-year resident of Flagler Beach and the founder and owner of the law office of Scott W. Spradley in Flagler Beach. His primary practice is consumer and business bankruptcy and reorganization, as well as general civil practice. Most recently, he's been helping small businesses apply for, obtain, and properly spend funds they receive from the Paycheck Protection Program. Welcome, Scott. It's all yours. Take it away.
Where's Scott? Scott Spradley or Scott Fox?
Attorney Scott, excuse me.
Yeah, that's
There we go.
Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. What I wanted to talk about is really the nuts and bolts of how this Paycheck Protection Program actually works. You know, you don't have to go very far in looking at your TV or any other source of media to hear all about it, hear how parts of it are working, parts of it are not working. There is money, there is no money. People are getting loans, they're not getting loans. But what I can tell you is that when we saw this program, the genesis of it 3 weeks ago, what I did was kind of retool my law practice with my staff to do nothing but help local business owners for the time being to get these loans. I saw an opportunity to help, you know, and based on what the government has imposed upon us for our own safety of staying close to home and that sort of thing, we didn't envision there would be a lot of people knocking down our doorsteps for day-to-day legal advice. So I saw an opportunity and I had a time to do it. So the night that the president signed the CARES Act legislation was when I began attempting to get smart on what's involved in the 800-page legislation that involves the Paycheck Protection Program, and then how I could help small businesses with it. So fast forward to today, I think we have uploaded somewhere between 80 and 95 loans for small businesses. All but 2 or 3 of those are here in Flagler Beach or in Flagler County. And the good news on that is that despite what you may be seeing in the media about the money is gone, there is no money, we are still having loans that are being funded. I shared with Scott Fox that that there were 9 local businesses that received their loans between 10 p.m. last night and 10 a.m. today. So so we're still working hard at that now, and I'll stay on that point for a minute about the funding. Yes, there was $349 billion allocated for the program. And yes, the SBA is saying that money is no longer available. Where they have sort of are misspeaking, I would say, is they say the money has been spent. And that's caused a lot of great anxiety with clients of mine, including Scott Fox, because he knows that his loan has been approved, but he hasn't seen the money. So you turn on TV and you see the money's gone. So the normal reaction is, did I lose out? And the answer is that what should have been said by the SBA is not that the money has been spent, but it has been all allocated to the banks for loans that are being processed. So, and a big difference, because I would say there's only a small percent of that $349 billion that's made its way to the business owners as of right now, but the rest of it is on the way. And so, in evidence of that is, as I said, even, you know, I think the announcement was made at 10 a.m. yesterday that the money was all gone, but I've had 9 clients since then receive their money. So properly, the money has all been allocated. And we will continue to see it distributed over the next days. It's also my opinion. I'm not an expert on this. I don't go to the halls of Congress regularly and what happens there. But I do believe that the next round of money is going to be allocated very soon, in days. And so that while there's a temporary stall and panic right now, because everyone is of the belief that this is over, there's no money, I believe it's just a pause that's happening, and it will come to be. Now, if I could, I want to just talk about the program itself and what we have done. The first question I get is, do you have to have a lawyer to get this loan? And the answer is absolutely not. You know, you can attempt to get the Paycheck Protection loan on your own. And the thing is, if you're a small business owner and you have a very strong, solid personal relationship with your banker, with your business banker, that's who you should start with. And you should ask some very pointed questions about, now that we're 3 weeks into the program, what have your successes been? How many loans have you uploaded to the SBA, and how many have been approved and funded? And get as much information as you can, because the reports I'm hearing from, particularly with the large banks, is they have just been overwhelmed, and they've accepted millions of applications, but I'm not hearing of many loans that have actually been funded. They're just swamped. So I would urge anyone who has a very close relationship with the lender to at least talk with that person first. Now, what I do is, based on our experience of doing this the last several weeks, I've collected a group of lenders that I have high confidence in. They funded these loans. One of them is in Florida. The other 3 are in other states. And they do a great job of running these loans through and staying in contact and updating me so that I can then update my clients. The other question I get is, well, then how much is this going to cost me to use a lawyer, even if it's more efficient than if I were to do it on my own? And the answer is, the way we've sort of adjusted how we're doing this, the answer is it costs you nothing. The new legislation has been tweaked a little bit by the SBA. What it provides is that any attorney or accountant who helps an applicant with one of these applications will get paid a percent. And if the loan is $350,000 or less, it's 1% to be paid by the lender from the lender's fee, and the lender itself is paid by the SBA. So it does not come out of the applicant's pocket in any way. And so, for example, if I have a loan that's a $10,000 loan, well, guess what? That's $100, that comes to my firm. So we're not doing this to get rich. We're doing this to help our local business owners. I even had a loan recently for a client. It was $979. So my firm makes a whopping $9.79. So we're doing it just to help everyone, maximize what they can get from this program, and in hopes to make payroll between now and in the 8 weeks after they receive this loan, because that's how long you have to spend it. All right, so now starting from the beginning, and I'll just touch on briefly how you compute what your loan is and that sort of thing. And Carlos, I believe you have a graphic on that.
I do. Let me prop that up for you. This one?
Yes, let me see. Yes. All right. So the first question is, if you're a small business owner, it's like, well, how do I know how much my loan is going to be, and do I have to pay it back? So starting with the first question, the amount your loan is going to be, it's going to be based on what your payroll cost was for calendar year 2019. So starting with round numbers, let's just say that you're a small business here in Flagler Beach, and your W-2 payroll for 2019 was $120,000 for the year, and that's your gross. Okay, you don't add up the net pay that you paid your employees, but it's the gross. It includes not only their net pay, but it includes what you were responsible to pay to the government. So let's say it's $120,000 for the year. You then divide that by 12 months to come up with $10,000. That is your average monthly payroll for the year. The amount of your loan is 2.5 times that. So that would be $25,000. And the reason for that is that someone in Congress arbitrarily decided that they wanted to try to get a couple of months of payroll income into the small business's pocket. So that's how your loan amount comes to be. I've been asked this question a good bit. Well, what if you want more? What if you actually want to take less? It's this amount. There's just not enough time, and there's no provision to allow for a variation off of that number. So the amount of the loan that you will get if you get the loan is easily computed. So that's the amount of the loan. The next question, and we'll may as well take it on now. The next one is, well, then once I go through this process, whether it's, whether you do it on your own, or you go to a local banker, or you use my firm or somebody else, once I've started the process and once I get my loan, and we'll come back to the process in a minute, what do I do with it and how do I get it forgiven? Because that's been a big part of what has been advertised, is that this is a forgivable loan. The answer to that is that, as it says on the first block of this graphic, you are to use it for payroll, meaning employee salaries. You can use some of it to pay business mortgage interest, business rent and utilities, and then interest on debt that occurred before February 15th of this year. One requirement that I'm already reminding clients of mine who receive their money is that you, in order to get this loan forgiven, it has to be spent on one or more of these things. But importantly, 75% of the money has to be spent on payroll. All right. So, and if you spend 75% or more on payroll, and if the rest of the money is spent on one of the other items that are listed in that box, then you qualify to ask for the whole loan to be forgiven. All right. Now, I'm aware, especially in the restaurant business, and there are a number of restaurants owners that I've spoken with, some of them are simply not in a position to be able to pay 75% of the loan amount as payroll. And it makes sense. There's some practical reasons for that. I mean, number one, because the government has closed the restaurants except for takeout and that sort of thing, then the number of employees has been reduced. So already there's a logistical issue because you've computed payroll based on when times were good, and now you've got to spend it based on when times are not. The other situation is some restaurants may have a more important need for that payroll, as important as payroll is. For example, I'll throw out the name Cisco, who provides food product for restaurants. What if a restaurant has a huge bill, and if that's not paid, then they'll be cut off from their food source? So now you got a choice. Well, what do I do? Do I use this loan to pay my employees, but then have my business remain closed because I got no product to sell? Or do I pay Cisco and keep me alive, and now I'm possibly not going to make this 75% requirement of making payroll? Thus, I may have to actually pay some of this money back. Well, that's a business decision that some business owners may be confronted with, and they may decide that Cisco wins on that deal and they'll have to pay it back. So then we come to, well, what about if I do have to pay it back, either because I just didn't have enough payroll that I could pay, because you have 8 weeks that you have to spend these proceeds from when you receive them. What if I don't meet the 75% threshold? Or what if I do, but the other money is spent in a way that it's on other items not listed here? What's the penalty for that? Well, the good news is the penalty is just that you have to pay it back. It's just part of a non-forgiven loan, but the terms are good. And that goes to the next part of the graphic. And that is that you have a fixed 1% interest rate on the non-forgiven part. The first payments don't begin for 6 months, and you have 2 years to pay it off. So you won't find a loan with any better terms than that. Okay. Hopefully our business owners will be able to find a way to spend all of the loan proceeds in a manner consistent with this top box up here, so that all of it is forgiven. But if not, it's not going to be the end of the world, because it does appear that these terms are pretty generous. All right, so that's what happens as far as computing the loan amount, and then how you have to then spend it. Now let's talk about how you get there to begin with. For those who come to see me, what we do is we send you the application, and I'll invite Scott Fox to comment on it, but it's not an onerous application. I mean, Scott, it didn't take too much trouble to fill this out, did it?
No, not at all. It was actually fairly easy, because everything was it was a conformable what is why am I drawing a blank right now? The format was easy to fill out. It was all done online. You just plug in the numbers and send it right back.
Yeah,
Now it's changed. It did change a few times, but that's because the evolution of this, I guess, bill changed so fluidly.
right. And what Scott's talking about is, as far as the computation, there's only a couple that the business owner has to make. You're not going to have to get an appointment with your CPA to fill this thing out. This isn't a loan of the sort that we as business owners are accustomed to having to do and filling out reams of paperwork. There's two computations, and I've just gone through them. You know, one is to compute what your total payroll was, divided by 12 to get your monthly payroll, and there's a box for that. And then there's a box for when you multiply it by 2.5 to come up with your loan amount. The rest of the 2-page application is just basic information of the sort that you see on any application you fill out: names, addresses. They do ask for your social security number, and then a series of questions with everything from such things as, are you telling the truth when you fill this out? And then it asks some other items for you to confirm. That's your opportunity to confirm that you're going to spend, or at least try to spend, these proceeds when you get them in a manner that the government has asked that you spend them to get proceeds forgiven. All right, so we send out that application. We set it up so that it's a PDF fillable application, so you can just fill it out on your computer, and then it comes back to me. And then for the initial application, what I do is I like to have the application, of course. I like to have the quarterly 940 tax documents for calendar year 2019, plus the 941, which is the sum of the 940s. Those at a minimum. What we're now asking for is front and back of the driver's license of the owner, whoever is completing the application. And with those documents, we are ready to upload your application. Now, as I'll come to in a minute, there are other documents that are typically requested depending upon the lender and depending upon what loan officer of the lender we have. But those documents, the 2-page applications, your 940s and your 941, and then front and back of driver's license, you're off and running if you can get those to me. Now, some business owners may be thinking, well, wait a minute, I haven't filed my tax returns yet. They don't require tax returns. And that is the first question I hear from everyone is, what do I do? I don't have my tax returns. You don't need your tax returns for this loan. Now, most, but not all, business owners have their 940s and their 941 because you're supposed to be filing those as you go. But I have had a few clients that didn't. What I've asked for them to substitute is something that the loan officer can look at that confirms the loan amount that you're looking for, which is based on your payroll number. So they need to see a document that is the source of how you computed your loan amount to be. And I've had payroll reports. If you have QuickBooks, for example, you can run a payroll report for the year and there's your numbers. So in a couple of instances, that has been sufficient. So with those documents, we're up and running. Now, where do I send these applications to? Well, when I started looking at this program and what we could do, I immediately got a list of the 114 SBA lenders who are participating in this program. Since then, the composition has changed. Some of the lenders have dropped off, and there have been a few more that have been added. But I did a little research, and I wound up with 4 lenders that it appeared to me that would be good to work with in this program. And of those 4, I'm still using 3. The other one just took on too many loans and is not performing. The other 3 are. In fact, a side note on that, this past Sunday, Easter morning, I was here at the office working these loans, and I got a call at 8 a.m. from one of the loan officers from one of the banks. All right, so number 1, it's Sunday, Easter Sunday at 8 a.m. Number 2, the loan officer was in Arizona. All right, so that's either 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. their time. Well, that went on all day long, as it has every day since then with me and my staff. We get calls and emails from loan officers all day, every day. My day on Easter ended as I was getting ready to go to bed, and I was exchanging emails on my cell phone with a loan officer, it was the same loan officer that I talked to at 8 a.m. in the morning, who was working these loans. So when I hear criticisms about the program, and rightfully so, I don't find it that it needs to be leveled at these people at the banks, these loan officers. They're just doing an incredible job to try to move these loans through. All right. So anyway, once these loans are uploaded, then the waiting game begins, because we do not know, and we don't have a way to know how long it's going to be until I hear from a loan officer. I mean, if you think of the multi-millions of loans that have been uploaded, and I'm sure the number of loan officers nationwide are in the hundreds, maybe the thousands. It just takes time for them to get there. But you know, I have been receiving emails and or telephone calls within a couple of days after I upload an application. And so at that point, that's my point of contact. I can't do anything once I've uploaded the application to the portal of the lender that I've chosen. I can't do anything beyond that until I hear from a loan officer. Once I hear from the loan officer, now I've got somebody to deal with. And at that point, I'm asked for supplemental documents, and the supplemental documents are not too painful. And Scott, I think we may have asked, and one of the things you already touched on, and that is that they changed the application the day after the program started. So for everyone who completed the application, we had to have them completed again. Although they didn't lose their place in line, the banks were kind enough to just allow the new application to be dropped in their file. But Scott, was there other follow-up documents that we needed from you on your loan?
No, I just think it was the removal of 1099s of independent contractors. But
That's
other
right.
than that, it was extremely painless. I mean, it's nothing compared to some of the loans that I've been going through for Hurricane Dorian and previous storms through SBA and Rebuild Florida and bridge loans. It was just such a painless process.
Right. And they've made it that way, which makes it even more amazing that it's that painless when these loans are, for the most part, going to be forgiven. So that concept is a great one. All right. So we work these loans and we, you know, our job at that point as lawyers here at the firm is just to be the middleman, as it were, to receive instructions from the loan officers and then get with our client and collect the information and get it back to the bank. All right, at some point, then afterwards, we will get an email or a call saying, all right, this loan has been approved. And then it's now been assigned an SBA loan number. And that's important because that means that loan is going to be funded. And it's going to be funded out of the $349 billion that's been allocated by Congress. At that point, there is a further waiting game, but at least we have some level of comfort that the money will be here and hopefully soon. Then come the loan documents. The loan documents consist of a 4-page promissory note. As commercial transactions go, is probably as simple a form as you might imagine. It doesn't ask for very much. It restates what you have to do to get the loan forgiven. It's identical to what is on the application, and it's for you to check a few boxes and return it electronically. And then at that point, the SBA has dictated that the loan has to be funded very quickly. It turns out Scott's business, Tortugas, is all the way to that point, and we're just waiting on the next step. In fact, during this webinar, I've been looking at my phone to look at the emails. So hopefully, you know, looking for one that will be directed to Scott. But
Me too.
okay.
Me too.
So at that point, then, you know, the last step is for these loans to be funded. And that leads me all the way to today, where I've said we had a few loans funded over the weekend, and now yesterday and today have been a big day with 9 more. And then since I've been sitting here, 2 more have been funded. So the money is coming down. All right. So the next question is, and I've touched on how you spend the money, and I'll wait till the end if anyone has any specific questions about that. I've kind of hit it in the big picture. But the next question is, well, what happens? And since the money has been allocated for the 349, what do I do now if I have not yet applied? And my answer to that is you need to apply. Do not wait until you pick up the paper or go online and see that the new money has been allocated by Congress, because we're not slowing down now in my office. We're filing applications left and right because there will be a time, in my estimation, and it'll be soon, that there will be more money. So you don't have to wait to upload an application when the money is there. The lenders that I'm working with have said that. They have said, keep sending them, Scott, because we're processing them and we're going to take them all the way to the point that they're ready to be funded. And when the new money comes, they'll be ready to go. So, and so finally, what I do and what I will do now that these loans are being funded is I'm available as part of the service that I'm providing to assist clients with how to properly spend those funds so that they maximize the amount of the loan that's forgiven. Once the funds have been spent by the small business, you are then eligible to ask for the loan to be forgiven. Well, this program is so new that the SBA and the lenders have not even sent us the form that we'll be sending in, but they will. And it'll be a certification, and we'll have to prove up that the loan was spent and the manner that it should be forgiven. And I'm sure they'll ask for various documents. So I'll be advising clients on questions that come up about that. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what has happened in my experience over the last several weeks in working with this loan. And whenever we're to the point that questions could be asked, then I'm here and Scott's here.
So, you know, that's really interesting. Your expertise in expending these funds as well, especially relative to the restaurant business, because where 75% of it has to be expended towards payroll, you run into the situation with servers who make probably the majority of their money through tips. However, they have to be actively recalled for you to go ahead and get your loan forgiven. It's going to be interesting to see how you finesse that.
Well, it's sort of bumpy because this legislation was put together so quickly. There have been some glaring, I don't want to say errors, but items that have come up. For example, nowhere in the legislation where it speaks to the fact that you need to use 75% on payroll, nowhere does it say that anyone needs to be actually working. So,
yeah.
So you've got a lot of restaurants, for example, that people are sitting on the sidelines and they're not permitted to be open other than for takeout. But yet in order to get this loan forgiven, they have to make payroll.
Right.
I've been asked the question, well, can I pay my people even though they're not permitted to come in and work? The answer is yes. The answer is that the government wants for people to get payroll. The issue of whether they're actually working or not is not part of the equation. So it sounds nonsensical on one respect, but on another respect it is. I mean, you know, just because they're not working doesn't mean that the rent doesn't come due and that they have to buy groceries and that sort of thing.
Right.
But there are some other challenges in there, and we're just gonna have to work through them.
And we're going to open this up right now for questions, and either the Scotts, Tortuga Scott or Attorney Scott. And I have one that was sent to me from Carmen Vincenti, and this is a tourism question, and it's about actually she makes, let's see, it says, am I entitled to receive any help for my vacation rental home since I don't have any employees? But because of the virus, there's no income coming in, so no bookings are being scheduled. The income I receive from my vacation rentals is what pays my expenses in my home in Florida. Does she qualify for this payment protection program?
Kat, one thing we did not talk about is the fact that there's another group of citizens who are eligible for loan help through the Paycheck Protection Program in addition to small businesses. And that's individuals whose earnings come from 1099 income. And so in Flagler Beach and in Flagler County, what that means is a lot of realtors get paid 1099 income. They don't get W-2. and a lot of contractors get 1099 work or income. So they apply for a loan, and what triggers how much they get. It's you start with how much 1099 income they got for 2019 and do the same math, divide it by 12, multiply it by 2.5, and that's how much of a loan that they get. And they have an easier way to spend their money because they are required to spend it on payroll as well. Well, guess what? If you're a 1099 worker and you're required to spend it on payroll, that's an easy one. You just pay it to yourself.
Right.
Now, back to the example you just asked me about, I get a lot of questions like that. We have a lot of vacation rentals around here. We have a lot of people whose sole source of income is from rentals. Unfortunately, even though you may use the rent you receive to pay expenses, unless that's either chalked up as 1099 income or it goes into a business and you get W-2 wages, you're not going to be eligible for this program. The amount of the loan is computed based on either your small business's W-2 payroll paid out, or if you're an individual, is computed based on your 1099 income in. If you don't fit one of those two, you don't qualify. But that's where I have advised folks, make sure you apply for the $10,000 grant that evolved to an up to $10,000 grant, and then all of a sudden that now is no longer available at all. But this program is applying that example.
So, this is my hope that proprietors are doing so well, and their employees were doing so well up until this issue. Are there any limits on the amount that a person is paid that they can get reimbursed for, or that they can pay out on this program? So is there a salary cap or anything like that?
Yes. When you compute the loan amount, and I'll give you two examples, one for the business and one for the 1099 employee. If you have some high paid individuals on your business payroll, when you're computing how much your loan is going to be, you have to stop at $100,000.
Okay.
In other words, if they make 150, you can only count 100,000, and then you do the math from there. Doesn't apply to a lot of businesses around here, but there are some. As to 1099 employees, if you've had a good year in 2019 and you have more than $100,000 in 1099 income, you can only count 100,000. And so once you do the math for 100,000, that winds up being a $20,000 loan is what it amounts to. That's your loan.
All right, Carlos, do we have any questions from any of our attendees?
I have not seen any raising of hands, but if anybody is on Zoom and would like to ask a question on the Zoom app, there is a raise hand feature, and we'll see. There we go. We have a question come up from Tony, and please forgive me for pronouncing your name if I say it incorrectly. Tony Trewoji. I apologize. I'm going to push the button here, and you're on, Tony. Oh, let's unmute. Well,
Unmute.
there we go.
Okay, hi Scott. Okay, I recently sold my business. It was sold in late September of 2019, and I'm asking this question on their behalf, actually. As a late 2019 ma and pa business with no payroll, but a very high mortgage payment and high utilities, are they able to qualify for anything?
That's, under this particular program, it's kind of the same answer as the last one, Tony. And that is that if you don't have W-2 income, the business can't apply. If you don't have 1099 income, you can't apply individually. The only sort of the third option is if you're a sole proprietor, and those are normally service businesses like accountants, law firms, doctors, and you're paid a certain way that there's money on your Schedule C to your 1040, then you may be able to. But unfortunately, with the example you're giving me, I'm concerned that I don't think this particular program is available to you.
Oh, darn. Okay. And again, it wasn't to me. It was to the people who bought our property at Island Cottage, and I'm just concerned.
Well, have them shoot me an email. I'll be happy to talk
I
to them.
will. What is your email address, Scott?
My email address is scott@flaglerbeachlaw.com.
FlaglerBeachLaw.com. Okay. I will have them write to you. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Scott, and be well and be safe.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, we're not seeing any other raised hand little icons, so I'll turn it back to you.
All right, so that was really great. I really appreciate it. And by great, I mean informative, concise. You covered all of the points. You know, and Scott Fox, you know, sharing your experience with us, it gave, you know, made me feel hopeful that there is an end in sight and some relief for these smaller businesses. And you know, ultimately what we want to do is we want to minimize the amount of time that that this is going to continue. We want to get our economy back and moving, because people want to work. They really do want to work, and we want to get back out there and, you know, sit by the fire and listen to open mic night, and not just at your place, but at all of the places that are out there along the beach. Tourism is so important to Flagler County, and the small business owners are our lifeblood. This is not going to be our last webinar. We have another one scheduled already for Thursday, April 23rd at 11 a.m. We'll be talking with Robin King, the Director and CEO of Career Source Flagler Volusia. We'll address sole proprietors, 1099s, and gig economy workers about the short-term compensation program, reemployment assistance, AKA unemployment. They call it reemployment assistance in Florida. And getting displaced workers back to work through REACT. You know, God forbid that, you know, a business doesn't reopen and somebody needs to find a new job. So Robin will be talking about that. So if you are you own a vacation rental, like Carmen, who had sent in the question, that 1099 or sole proprietorship, this next webinar might be something that you want to attend. And Scott Spradley and Scott Fox, you're always welcome to come back and
Thank you so much.
send in on any of these webinars, and can't wait to get back down to the beach when they're open. When they're open.
When they're open.
All right.
You can always come by and pick up some food.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So everybody, I know that, you know, a lot of us have to stay at home, but there's no contact pickup and no contact delivery at many of our businesses. Please check out Flagler Open, the number 4.biz. That'll tell you which businesses are open and what services they're offering. Please continue to monitor flaglersupports.biz for updates on webinars and industry-specific programs that apply to you, your industry, your business, and your situation. And thank you so much. And everyone, please continue to be well and practice safe social distancing. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.